What's so funny is now that I've seen you, I'm gonna see you all the time.
Oh,
That's
how
how it works.
that's how it's supposed to be.
You're gonna see me all the time, usually in the back, you'll be like,
Yeah.
hey.
Come again?
Yep.
I need some representation. I need some representation.
Are you getting for real?
Oh, that was.
Oh, okay, okay.
At one point, I wish I would have asked for it. That's how I met Deshaun. I was performing at Second City out of Chicago. And her sister was an actress. Her name was Tamberla.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I have to do that again like I do in church. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hey, it's good to know that everybody's here. Everybody's wide awake and looking good. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the very first forum sponsored by Welcome to Life Christian Church. We're sponsoring a series of discussions in the community going forward that are really designed to provoke thoughts and to generate commentary and to stimulate the birth of ideas that can later be translated into action. We have a mission statement I'd like to read to you. It says, the Forum on Society and Structural Change is a nonpartisan civic engagement and education initiative committed to fostering informed dialogue on the root causes and enduring impact of social, political, and economic inequality through public forums, issue-based discussions, and educational resources. The forum empowers citizens to critically examine the systems and structures shaping our society, cultivate shared understanding, and inspire constructive action rooted in justice and democratic values as well. I am privileged and highly honored to be your facilitator today, but the guy that you really want to pay attention to is seated to my right. We are extremely grateful to have Raphael in the house today. And I'm going to just read a little bit about him in case you don't know who he is. If it's not, we'll make it work. we'll trade microphones if need be. Okay, but let me tell you that Raphael is a multiple Emmy Award winning actor and reporter in Indianapolis, now serving.
I'm an actor, I'm anchor. Anchor.
Misfit.
That's okay.
Anchor.
I mean, I could act, but
It's okay, it won't be necessary today. Okay, now serving Fox 59 and CBS 4. He co-anchors a show called First at 4. He's the lead for their consumer investigative segment. And if you've been around in this community for a long time, you know that one guy who can get at the facts of just about anything because he's a dogged, determined investigator and reporter is Raphael Sanchez. In fact, there's a segment that he does called Call Raphael. I haven't had the need yet, but everybody I think in this city kind of has your number in their back pocket, Raphael, because we know that you will in fact get the job done. You're deeply invested in the Indianapolis community, as we know, and every year he participates in more than 60 community events, of which half are fundraisers focused on raising thousands of dollars for charitable causes. He is from the Dominican Republic, in case you needed to know that. He lends his time and energy to charities that champion education, promote self-empowerment and compassion, and encourage leadership and civic responsibility. That last term lets me know that he's in the right place today, doing the right thing with the right people. Currently serves on the board of Franklin College Trustees. That's your alma mater, I believe. And has been married for more than 30 years to an amazing kindergarten teacher. So, what that tells me is that he knows a whole lot about the blessings and the benefits of civil discourse. He and his wife are the proud parents of 2 incredible young professionals, and we are thankful that he found time to be with us this morning, especially since it doesn't even appear that he looks old enough to have 2 adult kids. That are great professionals.
Botox.
That's for real.
Sir,
So, you want to
go ahead and say good morning to the people.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be with you.
Good morning, good morning.
It's always a blessing to wake up in the morning. It works for you. You have Jesus on your side.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Look at that. Okay. Does this is working for me. It's great to be here. So
Let me turn the volume up a little bit.
So while he works on the microphones, I've been in the city now for about 30 years. But my claim to fame, my side hustle, for those of you who travel, which always gets a little laugh, is I'm the voice at the airport. So when you travel out of Indianapolis International, I'm the person that says, "Welcome to Indianapolis International. Smoking is not permitted in the terminal." And then if you get tired of that, and then I break out and I do this. So atención por favor. I do the Spanish version as well. It's por vida fumar. So English and Spanish, I do both at the airport. I'm the voice. I am not the guy that says, the movie walkway is coming to an end. I don't do that. And I don't do, please take the ticket. I'm not that lady. So, but if you're in the terminal, I will help you get you act right. Act right. Do not get in trouble. TSA will get you in trouble if you don't do the right things.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Working
you.
now? 3, 2, 1.
No, it's still not working.
That's fine.
It's gonna be one of those off and on things, but I'm
Okay.
gonna hold this because it helps me feel secure.
Okay, all right. I'll talk about it. I'll talk about it.
I think they can hear us though, actually.
Yeah,
The
they
room's not so
can hear
big,
us,
so. Okay, so anyway, this is not just a conversation today. We're actually here to do some work. We're gonna talk about tone, manners. We're gonna talk about how we, as a society, think and listen and live together across our differences. And we just once again want to thank you for being here. Not just to speak to us, but to truly hear us, even as we need to really truly hear each other. Amen? Amen. Amen. So I'm going to give you a reflection, just a thought from my perspective, and I'm going to ask Raphael to do the same, about why we are in this critical place of needing to talk about critically the whole subject of civil discourse. Why is it even an issue? Why is it important? The fact that we don't have this room filled to overflow today tells me that a lot of people know that we have a problem, but they have no real interest in solving it. And I think that's the problem with so much of what's going on in our country today. There are a lot of people who know what right and wrong looks like. A lot of people know that, things are not as they should be, that things are going on. They should not be going on. But that's a far cry from getting up from your seat and putting your hand to the plow and getting something done. Amen? Amen. So we thank you that you're the kind of people that are willing to come out to get something done. Well, let me just say that as somebody who once stood in courtrooms and now stands in pulpits, I've come to see that words shape not only verdicts, not only legal decisions, but lives. Words are important. In the law, civility is the framework that allows adversaries. Anybody got any adversaries? It's the framework that allows adversaries to contend without chaos. In faith, it is the fruit of the Spirit that allows conviction to coexist with compassion. And yet today, incivility has become both a weapon and a shield. It's being used to dismiss opposing voices and to justify our own harshness one to another. This matters deeply. When discourse breaks down, so does our ability to govern, to bear witness to Christ's love, and to build a society rooted in justice and mutual respect. Democracy demands that we debate vigorously, but we also have to do it virtuously. And the church is called to be salt and light. As such, it must resist the pull of contempt and model a better way. Not silence, but seasoned speech. Not retreat, but redeemed rhetoric. In recovering civility, we recover the dignity of our shared humanity, and perhaps we recover the soul of our nation. Raphael.
Amen.
So the question before us is, why are we so crazy? And since we are in a place of worship, I tend to look at the book that has a lot of story, and that is the Bible. And we know that there are other books that other religions obviously use to tell their story. And I would just say to you, right, if we look at our story, if we believe that story to be true, good old Adam and Eve. You wonder why we are at such a discourse. Are we surprised? Are we shocked? We're more interested in who came first, Adam or Eve. Was it a spare rib? Was it a rib? What kind of rib was it? We get stuck. We get stuck really in the stupid, right? Because the point of The point of the creation was that two people were created for the betterment of the world. But then we get stuck in the stupid, well, is man first or woman first? Who cares? Because without each other, it doesn't work.
Right.
Not the people, right? The people, it doesn't work. And so our discourse is in our own history. And so we try to act like, oh my gosh, it's Biden's fault, it's Trump's fault. We want to blame other people for the very thing that we know is in our story. So the best way to achieve this situation is own up to our own deficiencies. You know, if we as a church cannot even tell our story in a way that's civil, how do you expect the bigger world to do so? So, Pastor, that's my answer. It's your fault.
Well, you know.
I mean, my other thing is, right, and I'm not a theologian, but like, right, there's a Jesus,
Right.
but there's 500 churches. And the 500 churches cannot agree on Jesus.
Wow.
That's true.
Right? So if the 500 churches cannot agree on Jesus and what Jesus' message is, which is simply to love one another, right? And loving people is hard. Loving people sucks. Loving people is not easy. But now we have 500 churches that every Sunday or Saturday, or Friday, depending on your religion, can agree on that. How do we expect the larger world, right? Those that we are to evangelize, those that we are to bring the good news to believe us or trust us when we don't have our stuff together. So again, we go back to wanting to blame Biden or Trump, because that's easy. Let's pick one. I hate Trump, I hate Biden. We then, who are charged with, right, being the people who bring the good news, we don't have our stuff together. And so on Sundays when we get together and Saturdays, we struggle with that. Why aren't the pews filled? Why isn't the synagogue filled? Why isn't the temple filled? Because people don't believe what we have to say. They just don't believe it. And that just carries through the discussion. We try to bring the news, we try to bring the light. Well, when our house is in disorder, I cannot ask someone on 34th and Meridian Street to believe me when my house is in the shambles.
That is true.
So the discussion point for all of us has to be, however we live our lives, what are you doing in your house? Because if you don't have your stuff together, how can you convince someone else to follow you?
Amen.
Or to believe you?
Amen.
So there's your discourse, Adam and Eve.
All right. That's a good discourse. I happen to believe that you're right. You know, everything that we are having problems with in society today ultimately began with disobedience. And the very, very same problem is what keeps us in a constant state of having to find guardrails that we don't even have yet to keep us in line. Because without that, we have no order, and without order, we have chaos. And we have a whole lot of chaos right now. I think somebody would agree with me. But let's find out what some other people who have thought about civil discourse have to say. I want to turn your attention to the screen and see if I can play a couple of things for you, because somebody sitting here still may not quite understand what it is when we're talking about civil discourse. Let's see what we can do. Everybody in here is intelligent, but I've always found great relief in watching civil discourse or civil anything else for dummies.
Civil discourse for dummies. What is civil discourse? The U.S. Supreme Court defines civil discourse as robust, honest, frank, and constructive dialogue and deliberation that seeks to advance the public interest. Civil discourse neither diminishes the other's moral worth nor questions their good judgment. It avoids hostility, direct antagonism, or excessive persuasion. It requires modesty and an appreciation for the other participants' experiences. This is a more civilized and respectful way to have a disagreement. And yes, protesting is a form of civil discourse, but the rioting, burning, looting, killing, and injuring are not. The current breakdown in civil discourse is eating away at the very core of U.S. democracy. Think about it. This is simply the exercise of patience, integrity, humility, and mutual respect in civil conversation, even with those whom we disagree. Have conversations about topics about which we disagree. Listen carefully to each other's perspectives. According to a recent survey, 93% of Americans said we have a civility problem in our society. However, 81% of respondents believe we can discuss highly controversial topics in civil ways, and 71% are hopeful for a more civil future. A time existed not so long ago when civil discourse was the norm and people could disagree without being disagreeable, and public debate was fueled by facts, not fiction. The term civil discourse includes speaking or writing knowledgeably about a topic and harkens back to the definition of discourse as the process or power of reasoning. Thank you for watching. Hope you have gained a better understanding of civil discourse and will forward this to your family and friends.
All right.
Everybody, this is Bishop Barron. I know the lack of civility is a major problem in our political culture today. Everyone knows that. If we lose the capacity to have friendship, real personal connection, real love with people that we don't agree with, the problem is we identify disagreement ideologically with hatred. Even the way that word is thrown around in our culture, of hatred and fear. How about we disagree ideologically, but we can still be friends? That, to me, is the foundation for a democratic polity. If we lose that, we lose our way. So I would hope that as we look at these issues of religious liberty, of civility, of discourse, let's find that space where we can, even as we disagree, remain friends. If that stays in place, then we can make real progress in our civil society. And God bless you.
What? We have a policy here in the neighborhood to not wash our vehicles in the driveway. Have you not heard of the policy? Do you not read the letters we put in your mailbox from the HOA?
Who are you?
I am part of the committee, sir.
Of what?
The HOA,
What is HOA?
the homeowners association, sir.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying that we have a strict policy about washing the cars in the driveway. We don't allow it.
I can't wash my Jeep in the
No,
driveway.
you cannot, sir. It looks bad on the neighborhood. People drive through, we try to look professional. And here you are washing this in the neighborhood.
So I can't.
That would be correct.
So where am I supposed to wash it?
At a car wash, there's.
Oh, because this is gonna fit in a car wash. I suggest you get off my property now.
I don't care, bro. Video. You're a loser. You're not even from here, you motherfucker. So you and your family, you terrorist. What do you all you want? You're an Arab. You're a fucking loser. Sand. Exactly. Video. What is that gonna do? What's that gonna do? Trump is president, ass. So you can kiss your fucking visa goodbye, scumbag. They'll deport you soon, don't worry, you terrorist. Oh my God, I'm so scared. What, you stealing? Fucking Arab.
Obviously believe in equal rights for everybody, including the LGBT community. But we also believe in equal rights for the women in the shelters, and shelters where there are men and their equal rights. So we want to look at things that really provide for everybody and doesn't impede the rights of one for the sake of the other. So it's a complex issue, and it's been on our agenda. We've talked about it quite a bit since we've finally gotten a general counsel.
How would protecting the rights of transgender homeless potentially impact the rights of, as you?
I'll give you an example. There are some women who said they were not comfortable with the idea of being in a shelter, being in a shower, and somebody who had a very different anatomy.
So it's,
Smoothie shop tirade has gone viral this morning after a grown man yelled at a group of teenaged employees. His racist rant has been caught on camera and at one point even became physical with one of the girls. Here's ABC's Steve Osunsami with more.
You have no room to yell at us. I want to speak to the person who made this drink.
The man seen here at a Connecticut juice shop yelling about a problem with a smoothie order is apologizing this morning.
Is that you? No, we don't know who made it, so. You don't know who made it? There's 4 of us here, so we honestly don't.
In cell phone video that's quickly making its way around the world, 49-year-old James Ianazzo is seen throwing his shake at the teenage employees.
I'm calling the police.
He's telling them he wants a phone to speak to a manager, and then he says this.
What? Yo, you're going to jail. You're going to jail, you racist.
To many, his words were racially offensive, and you see him try to get behind the counter through a door that one of the workers is struggling to keep closed. Again, these are teenagers, and one of them tells us she's only been working here less than a year.
As a person who's had multiple customer service jobs, I've dealt with people like this, and I don't think we get paid enough to deal with it at all.
It's never been this aggressive, never been threatened to get killed by any of them.
And he did go to jail. This is the booking photo he took with tears in his eyes. He's charged with trespass, breach of peace, and intimidation based on bigotry or bias. He has not yet entered a plea. It was all too much for his employer, Merrill Lynch, where he worked as a financial advisor. They fired him Sunday. But in his written apology, he explains that he was upset because the smoothie was made with peanut butter, and his 17-year-old son is allergic to peanuts. He writes that after he started to drink his smoothie, my son lost the capacity to breathe properly. His lips and face swelled up, and he required an EpiPen shot, but it did not offer him relief. I called 911. I was out of my mind with fear for him when I returned to the store, and I wish I had not done so. I also wish they had been more careful preparing my son's beverage. He writes that my actions were wrong, and I deeply regret them. Police in Fairfield, Connecticut confirmed that about 30 minutes after he bought the smoothie, paramedics were called, and he did have to rush his son to the hospital. The 49-year-old says he told the young woman at the counter that the drink should not have any peanut butter in it. And he says this morning that he is so sorry for losing his cool. He appears in court February 7th.
It's reveille. There's no common sense, no moderation, and no decency in the agenda and actions of the progressive left. It should be their undoing. The latest example is illegal immigrants following Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema into the bathroom to demand she votes for the $5 trillion spending bill that also includes a path to citizenship. Are there no sacred places? There should be a debate on how much of our money the government should get their hands on. There should be no debate that the conversation isn't in the bathroom. Who do these people think they are? Then there's the black female college student that confronted the 2 white male students studying in the commons of their university. One of the white males had a pro-police sticker on his laptop that apparently triggered the black girl. She told him that he wasn't allowed in the multicultural center and needed to leave. This isn't just an example of arrogant activism. It is an example of bad manners and rudeness. Rudeness, though, isn't just on the college campuses and the Twitter universe. It also shows up on your local school board. At a recent school board meeting, a teacher's assistant came tearfully to the lectern to give public comment against the board's refusal to honor her religious exemption from mandatory vaccination and weekly testing. The teacher was near the end of her remarks when her allotted time ran out. The board moderator spoke over her, saying her time was up. She asked respectfully to be allowed to continue. Request denied. She pleaded again that she had just one more point to make. Request denied again. The Indian Prairie 204 School Board in Naperville, Illinois, should be ashamed of itself, and they should apologize to their employee. I'm Jeannie Ives, co-founder of Breakthrough Ideas. Civility in public discourse begins locally. Join the push for better schools at breakthrough-ideas.com. That's breakthrough-ideas.com.
All right.
Does it matter?
I think we'll stop right there and go back to our discussion, and we've got a couple more we'll finish up with at the end. But right now, what we want to do is kind of turn our attention to you, because this is not a one-way kind of a conversation today. This is an opportunity for us to feed you some things that will generate some, basically that will trigger some thoughts in your mind, helping you hopefully to come up with some real-life examples that you've experienced, some incidents or situations that you might want to talk about, that we might want to talk about, out of which there may be some strategies, ideas, or things that we will arrive at that could have made a difference and maybe changed the conversation for the better. And so now that you've kind of seen through video, at least, what the whole debate looks like and what can happen and what has been happening, let's hear from you. We got about 15 minutes we want to take, and anybody can start. I wish the mics were working, but only kind of. Does anybody want to start us off with a comment or a question on the topic, on point, that Raphael or I could address?
You know, in a country where we are an amazing experiment, in the sense that we are unlike any other country in the world, in which we have a constitution that allows for free speech and other things. We're also a flawed nation. Our history has moments, decades of oppression, and there's some dark things in our history which we have yet to still, in 2025, acknowledge. And we kind of skirt through it, and we hope that it's in the past, but we've yet to be able to acknowledge it. And I think what we're seeing really from the larger community is fear, because America is browning. And that scares people. And I would be scared as well, because when you're gonna tell me that my world's gonna change, and my world is changing, and those of us in this room are demanding that we are no longer to be treated in a certain way, and that we are in the room, as Hamilton says in his song, in the room where it happens. And we're demanding equal rights, both women and men. And those that live in marginalized communities are saying, nah, we're not doing that anymore. That was cute in 1968, but this is 2025. I want this. If I'm in the power structure, I'm like, no, hey, we gotta keep it the way it is. Right, so our history really doesn't change much. As you may recall, Jim Crow and all those other rules of the South in our nation was about controlling people. Let's not only pick on Jim Crow. I'm a Catholic. The Catholic Church was about power. It was about making sure that people paid their tithe, did the things that the bishop wanted and the Pope wanted. So power, when you challenge people's power structure, they get crazy. That causes this instability because people don't know how to act, don't know what to say, and so what you're seeing are mad dogs on both sides. People who are saying things that you know that you brought them home to your mama, she would slap the hell out of you. Right? I mean, we are talking to each other crazy on both sides. No one side is better, because we just don't know. We're afraid. We're afraid of our own communities, and that's a shame. So when we talk about the incivility, it is fear. It is fear to have a conversation to say, can we talk about this? What's happening? What's the solution? I would rather hate you or be mad at you, because when I'm mad at you, when I hate you, if I can dismiss you and if I can make you less than human, then I don't care what happens to you, right? And so it is easier to dehumanize you and treat you like trash than to actually say, hey, let's have some coffee. Because having coffee takes work. Having coffee means we have to have a discussion. Having coffee means that we may have to discuss things that maybe is uncomfortable. It's awkward. It's weird. But if I can get rid of you, or that idea, or those people, or them, or those, I feel good about myself. Because it's those people. It's that kind. It's the, put an extra Y. That's the reason I think some of this is being fueled out, is because we are just disjointed. And I don't know if all of you have your phones, I hear all the dinging and the pinging. Last week, we celebrated Juneteenth, right?
Yep.
For many of us, we didn't even know what that was. I'm embarrassed that in one of the most civilized countries in the world, I had no idea about Juneteenth until recently, as if Juneteenth just popped out of the air. Juneteenth was part of our history, which was not shared though, right? It was not something that we knew. Well, I mean, I didn't know. And it took 2 years for the folks in Texas to find out that they were, air quotes, free, right? Right? 2 years. Well, now with the smartphone, which all of you have, and all of you are pinging and looking at your scores and your stock options, you can say one word today. I can roll my eyes right now or go, ah, and someone will put a comment on X or Facebook with no filter. No filter, right? You could immediately put an X statement right now or on Facebook and say, Sanchez dismissed our pastor. He took the mic and he spoke for 15 minutes, didn't give him a chance. How rude. Those Hispanics, send them back home. What? No, yes, I'm here at the invitation of the pastor to talk about civil discourse. But someone could see it differently. And immediately on social media, label me as X. You can't take that back. Right? Technology is moving so fast, right? That we don't have time to sit down and go, can we just talk about it? Can we have a discussion? So on both ends, this is crazy. Juneteenth, which took 2 years for information to get to those folks in Texas. And now in 2025, information is going so fast, there's no filter. Ma'am?
Exactly.
That's the point I was going to make, is that now with social media, everybody has platform. And at any moment, you can pick up a phone and someone is espousing a view that either resonates with you 100% or one that you adamantly oppose. And with the, now that there's less and less fact checking, there's no place where you feel like this information is accurate. This is where I'm gonna turn to get the news that I feel is unbiased, that's objective, that's just giving me the facts. And a lot of people aren't even watching news anymore. They're watching podcasts, they're watching pseudo TV shows that have opinions. And so we're becoming a society of whatever opinion I have, I can get that validated. Whatever opinion I hate, I can jump into that as well. And I think that's what's leading to a lot of the discourse, why we don't sit down and talk to people with opposing views, because there's so many people that feel the same way I do. And if you feel the same way I do, you validate me and I know I'm right. And the people who don't agree with me, we can jump on them and talk about them online, social media, and now we're validated once again, because it's just not me saying it, it's my whole social media community. And that's the problem. And the other point I wanted to make is that because people have so many options to view and listen to, if we have issues in this country that you don't even have to pay attention to. So if you're going down your Twitter feed or your Instagram feed and you see an issue that's important, that's destroying the country, one more swipe away and you're looking at shoes. And one more swipe away, you're looking at whatever your favorite entertainer is doing in their home. And so it's disconnecting us to really focus on how I should spend my time to better my community. I don't have to, because I can just pick up my phone and get into a whole nother world. And then the problem is still there, and the problem is still growing.
Yeah, but, and so, you know, the great thing about technology, the great thing about being an advanced society is that technology is awesome, right? We have so much more information in our fingertips today than in 1776. If you want to find a pair of shoes right now, whether in China or at Kohl's or in Macy's, you can find it right now, what store to go to, how many they have in stock. You can do it right now. You can get your shoes. To me, though, all of this, and so technology is a good thing in the sense that it should improve our lives. But ma'am, I'll push back a little bit to say that technology then becomes the distraction, okay? Because yet again, yes, if we want to be a pack of wolves, right? If we are an educated society, wolves in a pack will attack the chickens because they're hungry. They don't care, they don't talk, they don't think, they just know, I'm hungry, I see some chickens. Come on, wolves, we're gonna eat up the farm chickens, right? They don't care how they get them, they don't care what they do with them, and they gotta eat the farmer, they'll eat the farmer too. So I think we wanna be like a pack of wolves. So the distraction is, we could say, yeah, I feel good because everyone thinks like me, but do they? Who are these people? So to live in generalities is a mistake, because you have your own thoughts. I have my own thoughts. And just because Benita or Shanae thinks the way you do, how about Raphael, Gloria, and Guadalupe over here? So you have to be able to acknowledge. We're choosing not to acknowledge that there are other thoughts, right? So that's the problem. The problem isn't that other people think like us, because I'm sure they do, right? For example, in my community, I'm Dominican. We like rice and beans. But not everyone likes rice and beans. So I can't say to you in an open forum, you know, ma'am, as a Dominican, we all eat rice and beans. Do we? I mean, since when have you become the voice of every Dominican in America or on the island? So we're choosing to make statements like, well, you know, social media is at fault. Yes, social media magnifies the worst in us, right? But it could also magnify the best in us. We are choosing, right? And then we say, social media. Well, because we choose it to be that way.
Yeah, there's opportunity to flip it and make it, bring us together.
Right.
Instead of pulling us apart.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Okay.
It's all yours.
Good afternoon. You was talking about Juneteenth, right? And I'm a YouTube junkie, a Facebook junkie, and I read comments. I don't pretty much have to comment. If I comment, that means you're in touch with me when I comment. And on that Juneteenth, and also I watch a lot of Channel 20. And Channel 20 to me has less distorted truth. And on that Juneteenth, they said that the regiment that they sent down there to assist in freeing them was an Indiana black regiment. Blew my mind. I didn't know that. I was telling the pastor the other day. And, you know, for us, just because I believe in this and you believe in that, why am I gonna hate you? I think the main point is believing in keeping what you believe and you believe what you believe. Well, we can sit down and let's talk. You know, I'm not trying to convince you, convert you, you know what I'm saying? This is how I believe this, and this is how you believe this. I have a friend of mine, I made the testimony, I have a friend of mine, we've been studying biblical over 20 years. He won't tell you. And I remember we would come home and all it took was just one word, and boom, we got books out, Bible out, and we would study 2 to 3, 4 hours a night. I ain't just talking about one night out of the week. I'm just gonna give you a little bit, just say me 3. I know we did 4 or 5. And we would be up until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning until someone had to get a drink of water, had to go to the restroom or anything. I said, Malcolm, look, man, you know what time it is? And we needed to be downtown at that time to oversee the shoe shop stand at the city market. And we did that for years. And one day, he lived with us. And so one day, the truth came and I said, Malcolm, I said, you know what? I said, you know, as long as we've been studying biblical, I said, we never had an argument. He looked at me, he said, because I know what comes out of your mouth is truth. I said, I like that. And still to this day. We'll talk, we'll have a debate. He believes in what he believes in, I believe in what I believe in. And we move on. I think we, as people, we're not sitting down and getting the whole big picture, because if you believe, that means God has given you something, and God gave you something, and why not get together and find out what the big picture is? Let me tell you some other thing about that too. What the big picture is, and if something's missing, somebody else holds a piece of that puzzle.
Yeah. Good. Anybody else?
Yeah, so, I got a big one. So talking about, social media and things like that, so, I know I've been on Facebook or whatever, and I've been arguing with somebody for 30 minutes and didn't know it. It's because we don't have the connection to understand that I'm saying this and this is what I mean, but they're reading it and thinking I'm meaning something else. Is because we could be living right next door to each other and never really have a conversation. There's never been a time where we've had the ability to be so connected, but have stayed so far apart because we're in our little boxes. And the thing I'm typing to you, you know, letters don't have emotional context and stuff like that. They're just letters. So he can take this however way he wants it. I'll take it however way I want it. And I think when we start getting into people that have something to sell or people that benefit from dividing us, and they start using algorithms and feeding us the things that we are already conceptualizing. You know, now you have algorithms on your Facebook. You get all the ads that match up to the things you search. So that everybody stays in their box. You know what I mean? We live next to each other. We have the same computer, we have the same Facebook, but I'm getting my information and he's getting his information, and we're looking at the same thing, we're disagreeing with it at the same time. So that's how I could talk to somebody for 20 minutes and we're having an argument and I thought we were agreeing on something. You know what I mean? It's because we're getting fed with what we want to hear and what we, you know, does that make sense? You know.
Well, if I can respond to that, I think, yes, this whole line of response makes a lot of sense. And I've been listening very, very carefully to it, and out of it becomes some new revelations for me that I'll share with you. But I think we've been talking about, to a great degree, the proliferation and the multiplication and spreading of technologies, ways of getting things done, ways of doing things, the need less and less and less for personal contact and personal relationships in terms of how we go about living our lives. I think we're at the point right now where you could stay at home, not go out and see anybody for a whole month, and because we learned this during COVID, that you could survive very much in your own cocoon for a very long time and still pay your bills, still get something to eat, still worship if you wish to. You know, you can do pretty much everything without the need to have a relationship with anybody else. So what I'm really getting at is that when you and I become dispensable to one another, when I don't need you anymore, and I also don't have a heart that realizes we all need each other at the end of the day. Because if your technology breaks down in your house, you're gonna have to call somebody. We all need each other, but when we forget that and put that out of our minds, what begins to happen is we develop this idea, this concept that, well, I can treat you any way I want to, and nothing's gonna happen to me. Nothing will happen. I'm not gonna lose a thing if I stand right here and call you out of your name. There's no risk that I have to contend with if I threaten to beat you up, you know, and go in my house and lock the door real quickly. I'm able to say and do things that just don't depend upon my being nice to you. And therefore, I have the luxury, if my heart's not right, of treating you any way I want and feeling any way I want about it. Does that make sense to anybody?
But here's the problem with that concept. You know, it doesn't work for everybody.
No.
So you could choose to be that person who goes out and is now, the new terminology is, I'm gonna be real, right? I'm gonna be authentic. I'm gonna tell you how it should be. Okay. And when it's you be real and you be authentic. Come on, do you. But just also now remember that we will also now be real and authentic. And so before you clutch your pearls and act a certain way, don't be surprised when we us's also are real and authentic. And we use the kind of words that you would never use at grandma's kitchen table.
Yeah.
Oh, so now you're embarrassed? Now you're, what?
I'm shocked.
You're shocked? Wait a minute, I thought you were being I thought we were being all real authentic. People have lost their minds. Let's call it what it is. Let's not give it any let's not try to soften it or say, again, blame technology. Technology only amplifies again and magnifies what's happening.
Right.
On the ground level, this is very easy, right? It goes back to Miss Adam and Mr. Eve. Mr. Adam and Miss Eve. How are we treating each other? How did the whole Cain and Abel thing work out? Right? How did that all work out? Because are we surprised that brothers are at each other's throats, that sisters want to kill their sisters? I mean, wait a minute, what? It's in a book. I don't like the book, but we're seeing that book in many of its messages, and the themes pop up. And now we're surprised in 2025, like, it's the end of times. Is it? Because that's been happening for centuries, and now we're sort of, we're surprised by it. But why? Why are you shocked?
You already written it down.
Yeah. That's a really good point too. We don't want to wax too theological here, but yeah, I mean, the signs in my view are everywhere that time really is winding down.
But I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with it?
No, because, if you are, and the whole Revelation thing drives me crazy when I read that, because that book is crazy. But end of times really for whom? If you're Jewish, Jesus is not even the Savior. I mean, the Jews are still waiting for somebody to show up. Right? And whether they're right or wrong, I don't know. We believe that if you're a Christian, right, Christ has died. He's risen. Our sins are wiped away, right? That's our belief. We don't act that way. We act a fool many a time. So I'm not sure what we're doing as Christians because we don't act Christ-like. But don't you think end of times just depends, is there a day and time?
No.
And why do we say end of times as if 2027 is the year? I remember the Jehovah's Witnesses would scare the crap out of me back when they knock on my door, they give you the Watchtower. I remember the Watchtower cover that had a nuclear bomb on it, and they were professing that the end of times was near. And as a child, I just thought, oh my God, we're gonna die.
Yeah.
I think end of times for me could happen at any moment for you or I. Is it cancer? Is it the loss of a child? Is it a world war? I mean, what if Jesus were walking amongst us now? I don't think we would recognize him. I think we would be like, you're not Jesus. If Jesus came down today, we would argue about who Jesus was. Is he black? Is he Arab? Is he Jewish? Is he Latino? For me, Jesus is Hispanic. I mean, he can salsa dance, he likes rice and beans. Well, who's your Jesus, right? We would fight over who Jesus is.
That's good. That is good, yeah, and I think you're right about it. Arnold, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on what he was saying when he was on social media. He's talking to someone and they're having a disagreement. A lot of people hide behind the keyboard. Yes. Because if you was talking face to face, voice to voice, most likely they're not going to say to you what they done typed in on the keyboard.
Right. Yeah.
Because you don't know what type of response that you're going to get if you're talking to the person and you saying those type of things. So now they done got in the habit everything's an argument on Facebook, and I'm looking at it, what the world y'all doing? And you was talking about the end of time. I was telling Patsy, I said, to me, I said, we're in a trial run. It's a trial run right now. It just ain't happening. Everybody know there's a beginning and an end. But we're in a trial run because if myself see it like I see it, he always gives warning before he does his wrath.
I remember at the end of the,
No, but she was gonna say something too.
oh, it was 1999, and you know, there was all this big thing about 1999.
Y2K.
Y2K,
Yeah.
and there was this pastor that he told all of his people, sell your property, and then we're gonna come and they're gonna be in my church, and then we're gonna count down to the end of time. Well, this is nothing to here and there, but I said, why are you selling all your stuff? At the end of the day, who cares if you say, oh, like this guy's up to something. What it is like you were saying, end of days for who? It's the end of days for this person's car because he sold it, now he can't get to work. And it's the end of days for his job, but come on, what does end of days mean? You know, what does information mean to each of us? Authentic is different from different people. His end of days was not the end of days that I think 99% of people.
Yeah, I think, Linda, you had something to add.
Well, I just wanted to hear some points of view of what do you think has contributed to the ratcheting up of civil discourse? Because, I don't know, I'm 64.
Racism.
Racism, for sure. But we've always had racism, but we've never had I'm thinking about just the mean and the nastiness that's so prevalent. I grew up, I didn't see as much, and even as a younger adult and as I get older, I see more and more. So what's different? I know we talked about it happened in the Bible, but you never really saw as much hatred and arguing and just disrespect of people. Like everybody's so comfortable now. What do you think brought that on?
Well, let me just say, it was okay when you were the secretary, okay? And when you were the handmaid and the mammy, that was okay, right? Because that was your role. But what happened? Now you are attorneys, you're Supreme Court justices, you lead school systems, you are police officers, you're police chiefs, you are the President of the United States. And now you are not in that little box. And now I'm afraid because now you're my equal. So I'm not saying that it's all racism, but I think we have seen across the country people who feel that it's okay to tell people that look like me, don't speak your other language. Well, Karen, who the hell are you? But then here's the thing, right? Karen then gets upset when she realizes that I just happen not to be the gardener or the pool boy or the roof guy or whatever, or the roofer. I happen to be an anchor on a TV station, and I'm also gonna curse you out. In a way that is now becoming and professional. Karen now grabs her pearls and says, you can't talk that way to me. But yes, I can. And so now we're just seeing a shift, right? And that's why I was talking about fear. And I understand the fear, right? Because how often are you folks in this room, let's be real, are the only black person in the room?
Often.
Okay? Right, and this is 2025, right? And how could that be? We've had affirmative action, we've had all this change, we have progress, but still, we're sometimes the only ones in the room. And because now more of us, it's called the browning of America, right? People are afraid, and I understand that, because you know what? I was afraid. So those of us that were in the minority, or the minorities, when we're the majority, there's gonna be it throws people off. So I understand it, and so that's why we have to have a good discussion, because we all can't be mad at each other. This is not gonna work. One planet, one country, one zip code, one state. we have to work together. We cannot repeat the anger, the divisiveness that exists. That's gonna be hard. We got a lot of Karens out there. You asked the question, let's get right to it. A lot of this is this shift in demographics. We are doing too well for people. You know, when people call a TV station and ask, why is there a Mexican on my television? And I'm not even Mexican.
Right, first of all.
But you feel comfortable saying that, that's a problem, right? Right, that's a problem. And I'm not worried about it. So listen, if you want to call me the Mexican on television, Mexico is an amazing country. Beautiful people, food, music. I'm not gonna get upset at you. But daggone it, is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah. You know, I think what we're missing, I think, as human beings these days is just the unwillingness to explore the other, basically. When I was in...
But are we? I mean, like, we have been on this planet for a long time. I guess I'm tired of excuses. I am not, I'm responsible for myself.
You are.
And Raphael is flawed. And Raphael is not perfect. And I will make mistakes. And so I am tired of having discussions about the question you asked. Why are we this way? Well, why are we? I mean, like, why would I disrespect you? I mean, I don't even know you.
Right.
But why would I wake up on a Saturday morning with the intent to disrespect you? Why? And why do we excuse that? And why is that tolerated? And why is that embraced? And why is that okay? Because none of it's okay. It's crap. And I'm in a church, but it's bullshit. Right?
You're on the nonprofit secular side.
No, but what I'm saying is,
You're on the safe side.
no, but because when we have discussions, that when you ask that question, what you're really saying is, why is it okay for me to be disrespected? And I'm saying it is not right for you to be disrespected. Today, nor tomorrow, nor any day of this year. You should be, every woman, you should be a queen and you should be kings. And unless you prove me wrong, unless you come into my home and rob me or do something crazy, you should be treated like the human that you are. Period. That should be the premise. It should not be, well, why are we so mean to each other? Well, why are you being stupid? Right? That's the question. Someone's being stupid. It's either you or me.
It does start with you and me. It's personal responsibility, and I'll get right back to you guys. But I do want to say that on that level of personally, well, being able to relax with the person next door is a whole lot different than you are, or the person you run into on your shopping experience or wherever you are. A lot of it has to do, I think, with just the fact that we have to be intentional about seeking out opportunities to get to know people who are different. Some of the richest times of my life came from opportunities to learn about other cultures and other people because I was a part of a mix or a blend of people, as opposed to just being with me, or mine. When I find out that Raphael likes beans and rice, I'm the kind of person who's gonna say, well, when we gonna have a plate?
Come on, don't
Bring the beans and the rice, that's what's up, And as a result of talking about how good those beans and rice are, you can't tell me that Raphael's, not, that he ain't it, That's my friend, okay? We've broken bread together. I know his mother's name, I know things about him that I never would have learned if I had not, like Peter did with the Ethiopian eunuch in the Bible, said, coming down off your horse, I got a few minutes, let me teach you about who you're talking about. When we start engaging with other people and things that are different, people that are different, we learn that everybody like us. They got the same kind of issues, the same kind of problems, we all breathe the same way, put our pants on the same way, We are each other. And so there is no room, there is no license for me to treat you like you are from another planet, and that I can somehow get away with it.
But pause there, right? And so that is all great. But there's a reason why I need to hate you. If I hate you, then I'm going to make money off of you. Right? There's a reason why people don't want us to talk to each other. Right? Because if we talk with each other, then we find out, oh, wait a minute, that's the scam. Right? If you and I work together, and we talk with each other, and we realize that at the end of the day, we have much more in common, which is what we do, right? And the difference is, then someone loses. The power structure has to say, damn, I can't keep them down. Because if you and I are angry at each other, if we're fighting at each other, they can do whatever they want. And so often what happens with power, this is not a conspiracy theory, but if you are not paying attention and you're all distracted with a shiny object, then I can do my nonsense over here. Because while you fools, while the lambs are all eating grass, the wolf is plotting and stealing stuff out of the treasury, right? But we are all like, well, I don't like your shoes. Oh, Meanwhile, crazy's happening over there. So again, we fall into this trap. I think we enjoy it, Pastor. I think we enjoy just being mad at each other and calling each other all kinds of crazy things and not paying attention to the issue at hand, which is, at the end of the day, respect for the kings and the queens of the room is universal. That is not a cultural, that is not a gender issue. Thank you, Moto. Time's up, I think. Is about how we just talk to each other. But we know what's right. But we choose not to do it because it's not in our best interest.
Say more about that best interest. I've heard that a couple of times. That's fascinating to me. It sounds almost like there is a profit motive at work that we don't maybe know about that makes it good from a commercial standpoint that we are the way that we are. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying that in some cases there could be a profit motive. If I don't like you, I'm going to keep you out of my neighborhood. I'm going to keep you out of my schools. I'm going to keep you out of my products. I'm going to keep you out of that. Or power structure-wise, I control you. These are my people, right? In Indianapolis, all black people vote for Andre Carson. That's just the way it is.
That's been the pattern.
Well, I'm just making that up. I don't know if they do or not.
They do.
Right? And so if I know that, then if I'm the congressman, then I got that vote, right? Because I don't have to go talk to the Hispanics. Hispanics don't like me. White people don't. I was black people. But is that true? I don't think so. Right? And I don't think Mr. Carson thinks so. So I don't want to. I'm being taped. I'm not going there. But I'm just saying. So it could be a power thing. Like churches too. Churches do the same thing. If you don't believe how we believe, you're not going to heaven. You will go to hell as we approach the end of times. This is the way to act. Sell your property. Do this. Marry this person. Love that person. Do that. Because if you do this, Jesus will reward you. Jesus will give you your crowns. I hate the term crowns and flowers. I'm not sure what that means. There's nothing about crowns or flowers in my Bible. But okay, sure. So I think it can be both profit and it can be power.
I think you're probably right about that. It always has been. So,
and that's not a conspiracy theory. We just have to look at our history. It just happens. Divided is much better than united.
So does that give me then some safety net, some opportunity that I maybe wouldn't dare say out loud to call you out of your name, or to talk about you as if you were nothing, or to tell you to get out of my driveway, or is there an excuse there implied?
But you see it though, right?
I've seen it.
And I feel bad for Karens because I'm sure there's more people than Karens that do crazy things. I'm sure there's Jose's and Berthas and Johns and Bills and Shamirs and, Tulum Ling. I mean, people around the world, do crazy things. I'm not sure why we just can't celebrate the good.
Did anybody else have a final point or two before we move on? Yes.
I just want to say some different things as people said, but the Bible says in the last days perilous times shall come, and we've been in the last days since Jesus resurrected. I guess you can talk louder. We've been in the last days since Jesus has been resurrected, but like one of them says, deceivers, are going to go wax worse and worse. So we are in the last days, but that's just like if you draw two lines that are almost touching, you don't know if you're down here or right there. You could be like half an inch, or you could be 8 inches. You know what I mean? We're getting closer and closer. We don't know when Jesus is going to come back, but he said he's going to come back. and things are gonna get worse and worse until he comes back, okay? I'm just trying to get us on the Bible, I'm really big on the Bible. And then, you know, you got the thing that, Jesus was a Jew, 'cause that's the genealogy, he was Abraham, you know, it's got 42 generations, so he was a Jew. But that doesn't mean he doesn't love Dominicans or Americans or anybody else. This is what I mean, we're gonna save anybody who comes to him. If they come unto me, all you labor and live, I'll give you rest. So he is a Jew, okay, but he loves everybody. You know, he had to come down and fulfill the law, so he did. And then, you know, some of the people were talking about things like, well, you mentioned, you know, that you were gonna tell Karen, you will tell her off and say some more, you know, and you were actually saying, I'm gonna cuss her out. But you were here talking about civil discourse, and yet you said when Karen comes to you, you're gonna cuss her out. So I was like, that don't sound right, you know, to me, you know, that you'd be doing that, because we're supposed to be trying to be patient. And sometimes we, you know, I have to learn that too, because if somebody comes to me, my first experience would be like, you know, to smack them down with words at least. But I need to learn to be patient. When they say stuff, I have to know, you know what, that person's just having a bad day, or his mindset's not right, and just love him anyway. You know what I'm saying? And try to learn what I can from him. That doesn't mean everything he says is right, but there might be a seed of here, you know, some grains of truth in what he's saying, but his perspective might be just messed up right now. But you know, to learn what you can from him, okay? And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, like in the media, like certain places, like if it was in Portland, Oregon, back when they had these Antifa things, I'd have been scared to death to be anywhere near there because I'm the wrong color. If I was down there, I mean, I'll be in a lot of trouble down there in that riot, okay? And other places like that, it's just like, you know, just because you're white, you're a bad guy, you know? And I love everybody, but I would not be perceived as someone that loves everybody. Like, oh, look at that guy, get him, you know? And I'd be scared to go down there. You know, I love all my people here in my church, you know, and I want the church to become integrated. You know what I'm saying? I want it to be everybody's here. You know what I'm saying? That's one reason I'm sticking in here, because I've always asked God to help me get rid of racism. I hate it. And He's answered my prayers in different ways. Okay, and I'm staying right here because I am doing everything I can to try to get this. And there's nothing against anybody that's here, because you're born black. You can't help that, right? I couldn't help being born white. But I'm just trying to get us to all just love each other and just everybody just come in here. I don't care if they're Dominicans, you know, Mexicans, you know, Irish people, whoever, you know, just everybody come here and worship, because it's the same Jesus we're worshiping. He loves us, right? So that's why I'm just sticking in here, because I've grown to love everybody here anyway. But it's just that I just want it to be, I want it to be more integrated, okay? And I've heard many people say that the most segregated time is Sunday morning. And I don't want that to be that way, but I understand how it gets that way, because, you know, when you see people look like you feel more at home right off the get-go. I mean, because you're like, you know what I'm saying? And then, so it happens that way, okay? But I want it to just be like, everybody's here, you know, and we just all love each other. It doesn't matter, you know. And my friends here, they all love me. They don't care if I'm white, okay? I'm just saying, like, in the media, you know, like I've seen many cases where they would just cuss out a white guy, you know, and what they say, if someone said that about a black person, they get fired right on the spot. But the black person can just say, well, I apologize. And that's it. And then nothing happens to them. Because it's left wing, it's leaning that way. And, you know, there was one lady, I think her name was Maxine Waters. She was saying kill people. She was saying kill Republicans, if I remember correctly. And she just apologized later enough that. But if you would have said that the other way around, or a white person saying, hey, kill these immigrants, you know, they would be like, hey, kick them out. You know what I mean? So I feel like sometimes it's just pushed so hard, and I understand where everybody else is coming from, because this country had slavery, and that was wrong. And then black people were treated like they're second class. They're not. They're created in God's image. Every single person is a king and queen. All of us. But then it's just that because at the time, that's what they did. And they just continued over when they should have said right off the get-go, hey, we're not going to do this unless slavery's got to be outlawed by a certain time period, and that's it. And then, you know what I mean, we could have made it, but, you know, went to the other thing.
I do want to correct you, your analysis of my discussion. I was using the Karen example. Karen feels privileged in the 21st century. And so Karen, my point was that Karen feels when she's telling me the truth, when she's being authentic, when she's being raw, Karen is not expecting me to give her back what she's given me. So people who live in this world of being raw and authentic are not ready for me to be equally raw and authentic. And if I were to use the same language that Karen uses, she would clutch her pearls and she would say to me, but I'm a Christian woman. Well, if you were a Christian woman to begin with, you would not have acted a fool to begin with.
Right.
And so I would not curse out Karen. But my point is, in the 21st century, there are certain people in our communities that do not have forgotten that I also have rights.
Right.
And I'm tired of having to explain myself. Because I am also a citizen of the United States. And so treat me respectfully and I will give you your just due. Go crazy, don't be surprised and act as if you are immaculate and you are Jesus born and cannot hear the words that I'm using against you. So it has to be something we have to just remind people, stop, you're doing too much. And so I would not ever engage with a person and call them with those words, but there are days that I feel like that because I'm tired. I am tired as a person who happens to be of color that I have to explain myself to people, right? And so,
I want to go ahead and get
here's
this
my
up.
boss
I just
lady.
wanted to say that sometimes I feel like the odd man out a little bit.
Well, you
know what
should-
I'm saying?
you're not.
I feel like
I
the odd man out
You're
because,
Yeah.
you know, and some, not these guys, everybody here loves me, but sometimes I get in the group, I'm like, oh no, because I've had people looking at me
Right.
mean.
Okay, so
I'm
hey,
just walking past a basketball game, they're looking at me like, there's a white guy, get him, you know?
So listen,
They're like,
so sir, so answer that, and you give me the mic. So the way you, so listen, the way you feel is real.
It is real.
And I don't want you to forget that.
That's right.
That just either scared or that just out of body creepy feeling that you feel when that happens to you. Imagine the one that happens to me. And so that's how, and when you have that experience, and I share with you my frustration, then you can say, damn, I know what it feels like. And that's wrong.
oh, I do know what it feels like.
Then my point to you is this: yes, sir, it is wrong. And that's the very thing for a different discussion that leads to this discourse is that I am not going to put up with that anymore. I'm not going to put up with walking into a room and being disrespected by people just because my last name is Sanchez. I'm not illegal. And even if I were illegal, I don't deserve to be treated in a way that's dehumanizing, right?
Correct.
So what you're feeling is good in the sense that now you know how a lot of people feel when they walk into a room, and that's the same thing we feel. And if that's not right for you, and it's not right for me.
That's correct.
Let me get on to Eric, unless you want
Yeah.
to bring you back here.
Right.
Let me get Erica in right quick, go
It just
ahead.
goes to Raphael's profession in media. How do you distinguish as you're going to report on a story or report on an incident, what's an opinion and what's fact?
Yeah, so everyone has an opinion,
Yep.
right? And so normally I don't do a lot of these events because I want to be very mindful that my opinion as a journalist does not matter.
Yep.
Okay? Either it's 2 people in the room or 4.
Yeah.
You can't make up the number.
Right.
It is what it is.
Right.
And so facts do matter. There are no such thing as alternative facts. Now truth, here's the difficulty, truth can change, right? Right, because at noon or at 11 when we began this discussion, there could have been 10 people in the room. And I could have said, good evening. Tonight, 10 people gathered in downtown Indianapolis to talk about civil discourse. Now, a reporter came in at 2 o'clock. There were only 5 people in the room. He would also, or she would say, there are 5 people in the room. That's not a lie. Facts changed. Between noon and 2, in that 2-hour time frame, information changes, right? So that's not a conspiracy. That's not an opinion. Facts, numbers can change. To the point that Erica was asking, our goal is always to do the best we can to try to get both sides. Sometimes it's difficult because we do have laws regarding personnel and privacy and those kinds of things. In the occasions in which we cannot go full-blown into something, sometimes we just don't even talk about it. We just say we won't do the story because if you can't get both sides, it's just not worth it.
All right, I do note that it's about 10 minutes until 12:30, and we do want to get Raphael on his way on time as we promised. I want to show you a couple more videos. One of them, I think, gets into what we would spend time doing next, and that's talking about what we can do about it. But let me go ahead and share that with you so that when you leave today, one of our goals will be fulfilled, and that is, and I'll get to you for a second, I will definitely, I have to give her the mic. Yeah.
Don't mess with the first lady.
No, I won't, no. Yeah, but we also give you some tips to take with you on that agenda today.
You wanna live tomorrow, right?
I do.
That's the
I
question.
don't want to.
You don't need it, okay.
Okay, my question is, why is it amongst our own people that when you have a business or you're doing something, that instead of them helping you, they try to block you? Why is that?
Listen, so I've experienced that a bit, and that's why I'm just saying, before we open, James in the Bible reminds us about our tongue, right? And that's why that's why in all of this, right, in all these discussions.
James was cussing him out.
He wasn't cussing him out, he was just telling him to watch out for your tongue.
So that's why in all of our discussions is, what's in our house? Before you go out and open that door, and you go out to make a statement, what's happening inside your house? And is your house, which for all our homes are made out of glass, is your house perfect? Because unless that house is perfect, which nobody's house is, what are you gonna say? I don't know, ma'am, the phenomena beyond that. I don't know why people, within many cultures, there is a desire to bring people down. I don't know that. I don't know that I don't think it's a black thing. I don't think it's a Latino thing.
I don't think it is.
I think it is a universal thing. We just see it in different ways, in different shades.
Okay.
Right?
I guess I put it that way because I have a non-profit organization called Destiny Performing Arts. And so I do a lot of different events for kids, to help kids. Our goal is to get a center open in Performing Arts Center, which I did get one open downtown. And all my money was coming from criminal justice, and we were serving 300 kids. And then we had to have a fiscal sponsor, which Jack Cotty, the sheriff, he was in the chair at that time, and they did become our fiscal sponsor. After he came out, I think Anderson came in, and then he refused. He wanted to know how I was able to get that much money and what Jack Cotty did for you. And I had no idea it was some political stuff. Honestly, I didn't know what was going on. What is your problem? And I said, all you have to do is make sure we're spending the money the way we're supposed to. He wouldn't do it. He says, I'm not doing it. And so somebody told me to go to Health and Hospital. I went there. Director said, we'd love to help you. And so because my payroll had come in, and I couldn't get it unless I had gotten another fiscal sponsor. So she told me, just go down the hall, you got your papers with you, tell the lady at the end of that hall, the office there, to sign the papers, you go pick your check up. So me and my accountant were walking down this hall, and this woman was looking at me, rolling her eyes and leaning. I thought, oh Jesus. I told him, I said, man, we in trouble. We in trouble before we get there. He said, why are you? I said, look at you looking at me. I don't know her, and she don't know me. So I get there to her desk, and she looks at it and says, how was you able to get this much money? I thought, Lord, again, I said, we applied for it. She says, well, I'm not, if I gotta sign it, I'm gonna read it and I'll keep it and I'll sign it and I'll deliver it. She turned it in late. And they had to send back $29,000 and say I couldn't use it. I had to end up closing my center, 300 kids crying, I'm crying, parents crying, packing up to get out of there. It was horrible. Over somebody that you didn't even know. And I told you, you didn't hurt me, you hurt the kids.
And so I think those kinds of stories, right? And again, back to the inhumanity, the way you've been made to feel, sir, just makes this discourse, our civil discourse, harder to conduct, because there's always a feeling of the rules are different for other people. That because you did it the right way, you're gonna get penalized over someone else. And so I think the broader discussion again is, how are we treating each other? That is not a You don't need to go to college for that.
Right.
You don't need to go to, again, an MBA for that. That is a simple, again, are you a king or a queen?
Amen.
And everyone's a king and a queen until proven otherwise.
Right.
But we refuse to do that. I would rather disrespect you because it'll benefit me. If I shut you down, right, maybe I could help Vanessa over here with this program. I don't know that to be the case. But
believe me, I didn't give up. We still have the organization. We got an event next month. We're still trying to get a building to get it back open. I don't give up. I just keep going.
you know, I want to say before the pastor plays his videos, I know that I'm going rogue and I have to leave in a second, is that if you look at my Facebook postings, whatever, I don't deal with anything negative.
Yeah.
I understand that that negative things happen. I know that bad things happen. I know the devil is active and working full time every day. My job as an individual is to be as positive and do positive things. If you live that, and so I encourage people to do that. I encourage people to do what Psalm 30 says, joy comes in the morning. That does not mean unicorns and rainbows and everything is happy. I understand that. But I have to understand that I have to come to these places and have good discussions and be joyful and be engaged and promote good things. I could spend all day talking about the dead people. There was a police chase as I was coming in at 42nd and Post. The guy was, I could do that all day on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna do that. Because I understand that bad things happen. I get it, I recognize it. The devil's alive. But I'm gonna stay with joy.
Yeah.
And so I encourage all of you to be joyful.
That's what I try to do.
Right? And it's not easy being joyful.
Oh, no, it's not.
It's not.
I need that.
It's not. The world is tough. But you have to find some joy in your day.
Do. And this is a joyful ministry, and so we will continue being joyful.
Be joyful.
Amen.
Play your video, Pastor.
I am. And then
Come
we're out
on,
of here.
Let's go.
Give you a final thought or two to leave with, and we're done for the day. I hope you enjoyed it.
Obviously, because of the shooting this week of Republican Congressman Steve Scalise at a baseball practice of all places. That was preceded a few weeks ago by the body slamming of a reporter by a Republican congressional candidate who was later charged with assault. These kind of incidents make people wonder whether the coarse nature of political debate right now is leading to these kind of horrible incidents. It's really difficult, of course, to know exactly what motivates somebody like the shooter of Congressman Scalise, and it may be something much deeper than political discourse, but it does point to a problem that is easier to identify and harder to refute, which is the nature of political discourse in the country right now is making it difficult for Americans in Washington and beyond to simply talk to each other and to try to come to agreement with each other. If you want some proof of that, look at a survey that was done by the Pew Research Center recently about this very topic, the nature of political discussion between Democrats and Republicans. 70% of Democrats said they think Republicans are more closed-minded than are other Americans, while 52% of Republicans think Democrats are more closed-minded. 47% of Republicans think Democrats are more immoral than are other Americans, while 35% of Democrats think Republicans are more immoral than are other Americans. And an almost identical share, about 4 in 10 in each party, think people on the other side are more dishonest than our average Americans. You know, Americans generally here in Washington and beyond are having a harder time talking with each other about political issues in a civilized way. If you can't talk to the other side, and then if you think the other side is immoral, it's pretty hard to come up with an agreement or a consensus. A lot less dramatic than a shooting or a body slamming, but still very important to American society.
I agree.
We need to talk. We all need to talk. But lately, it seems like we are having problems talking with one another. How can we de-escalate heated arguments, potentially violent confrontations, hardening attitudes, and hateful rhetoric that leads us to think of one another as the other?
Here's some things that we could say to help de-escalate, help calm a situation that might potentially then become a real conversation. All of these ideas involve one basic premise.
Go towards kindness.
In a conversation that's heating up, try this. You might be right.
We may not agree,
but I'm glad that we're talking.
I can see you're passionate about this, and that means it comes from the heart. So tell me more.
I want to hear your point of view, and I hope you'll hear mine. And then let's see if we can find some common ground.
Can we start over? I think we rushed to our opposite corners. Maybe we could meet in the middle on a few things if we keep talking calmly.
I feel as strongly about this as you do. I want to start by respecting your strong feelings, and I hope you'll respect mine, so we can discuss it, even if we don't agree.
Go towards kindness.
I hear you. Here's what I think you're saying.
I know this is hard when we have such opposite ideas, but I think it's good for me to hear yours, and I hope it will be good for you to hear mine.
I think we all want to be safe. That is common ground for us, and that's a place where we can meet with mutual respect.
I enjoy talking with you.
I just want you to know that it's not about winning an argument. It's about understanding each other, and I value you.
I hear how upsetting this is for you. It is for me too. We have that in common. And maybe that's a place where we can start together to find answers.
Help me understand what you're saying.
Even if we don't agree, we need to talk about this.
Maybe we're closer to agreeing than it seems.
I think we both agree that we need to do something. Can we find a way to do it together?
Go towards kindness.
Thank you for taking the time to tell me your views.
We can listen, be attentive, nod our heads, show that we are paying attention. This helps us feel heard and maybe even understood.
I admire your active concern here. I have that too.
I want to listen and understand. So can we remain calm and respectful and just speak to the issues so we can discuss this?
I believe we can find a way to sort out our differences if we keep trying and stay positive.
Go towards kindness.
Go towards kindness. Go towards kindness.
All right, go toward kindness. That's a very easy way to understand what you can do. At least it will remind you to bring up the basket of possibilities. And the first thing I think that we got to have in wrapping this up is a willingness to engage in dialogue with the person that we disagree with. Rather than yell at them, rather than scream, rather than go off on them, your attitude really has to be in a very kind and gentle way. Something's going on here, I'd like to know more. I'm not understanding why you're upset, I'm not understanding why you're going crazy, but let's slow down a minute. Let's go talk about the conversation behind the conversation. And maybe if I can understand what's driving you, maybe then we can identify ways to deal with this that will leave you okay and me okay. Because right now, I'm not okay and you're not okay, and that's not good. So let's agree to at least explore a resolution to the conflict. Closing thoughts from you, sir.
One of my favorite hymnals, and I don't really do a lot of faith talking because as a journalist, that is not in my basket. But I am faithful, and so one of my favorite hymns is that they will know that we are Christians by the way we talk and by the way we love, right? Yes. So maybe you don't want to have the discussion, and sometimes it's not about the discussion, it's about how do you act when you walk into a room. Because people are watching. And if you act a certain way and then you say, you know, I'm a Christian, but nothing you've done is Christian-like, how can you have a good discourse? So let us first do what we say we are. If we are Christians, then be Christ-like. You are not Jesus Christ, because no one can be that person. But are you Christ-like? I'll leave you with one more thought. We all have gifts in this room. So the question is, what is your gift to the world? Currently, I am a friend who happens to be Caucasian. He and I run a community garden in Johnson County. And we, as of Thursday, our garden has donated to our local food pantry 1,000 pounds of fresh produce. Yes, that's great, blah, 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 that's fantastic. Sure, thank you. That's not the point. The point point is, the people that I am donating the food to, presumably, based on where I live, happen to be white people, poor white people. I say that only because that's the demographic, right? There's more white people in Johnson County than there would be in Marion. My job is not to worry about who gets fed. My job is to do the work. So whether you are feeding white people, brown people, Dominican, doesn't matter who you're feeding. You gotta be in the work of doing positive things. Who you're doing it for does not matter. The minute you start asking, well, the produce, is it going to Hispanics? Well, maybe, I don't know. I'm not counting. I don't go to the food line and go, excuse me, ma'am, are you Hispanic and hungry? I know what I'm doing is, I am saying, I'm growing food on my time and donating it to people. Who needs it? That's on them. That's not, my problem is not to worry about who, it's the doing. So as we talk about civil discourse, let's do like the hymnal says. If we are Christians, let us show our love by our actions. If we're going to talk about this discourse, then let's do something. Do it because it's the right thing to do. Who it impacts is not your problem. It is not your business. But you have to be in the business of doing good. Then the rest will follow. We're so caught up in all the nonsense that we're not even talking. Forget about talking to each other. We're not even in the same space together. So thank you for this opportunity to share with you today. And I've appreciated it. Hope you'll invite me back. Pastor, do your thing tomorrow. Keep that sermon short. It's hot. We're in a heat waves, Pastor.
I like him. We're gonna have him back, aren't we? We sure are. We sure are. Listen, as we bring this conversation to a close, I just hope that we leave out of here today with a deeper insight into what this whole matter of discourse is all about, and with a renewed sense of responsibility. I would be happy if you left here today saying, you know, I'm just not gonna be satisfied anymore with people saying what they've got to say, and I've not taken the opportunity to find out what they really want to say behind what they said. We need to stop and we need to talk about this, because otherwise, you know, I'm gonna do what Rafael Sanchez would do right now.
What's that?
I'm going to talk to you from my authentic self. And then we may have an issue here that we don't have right now. So before we do all of that, let's take a moment. But I also just want to say that it's a radical act of hope in a divided world. It requires courage, because you have to have courage to stand there, to listen, to humility, to speak with grace, and faith to believe that understanding is still possible in the first place. Whether you're a citizen, leader, people of faith, we each have a role to play in healing the public square. So may what we have shared today not end here, but ripple outward into our churches, our homes, our classrooms, our conversations. I want to thank you also for showing up and for thinking deeply with us this morning, for listening well, and for choosing the harder path of dialogue over dissension and division. Just a couple of quick questions and we'll clear the room. Hope you had a great time today. We just want to find out, is there anybody that has one key idea or insight you want to give us that you're taking away from today's forum? Something that you didn't have before that you've got now that you're taking home with you? No key insights? Okay.
Well, I would
Yes,
say
sir.
just like,
Communication.
yeah, it's like, you try to from your heart to just feel their heart. You know, when they're saying stuff, because they have a heart behind what they're saying, and they're real people, and you know, they're just as important as you are.
Great.
Try to hear their heart, you know, and
Wonderful.
share
Thank
your
you.
heart.
Thank you. Short and sweet, but I like that. On a scale of 1 to 5, just raise your hand, give me a 2 or 3, whatever. How effectively did this forum encourage respectful and meaningful dialogue across differences? Was it effective in doing that? I got 2 5s, 5 over there, 5 over there. Somebody might only have 4 fingers, so I should have. But that's good. Looks like this was, it meant what we wanted to try to do. How likely are you to apply something that you learned today in your personal, professional, or spiritual life? Raise your hand. Are you likely to try something you've not tried before? Okay? And which element of the forum, the speaker's remarks, myself, had the greatest impact on you? The videos? Can anybody say what had the most impact on you?
Not the video, I think this discussion, the video enhanced, but I think
Talking to one another and at each other.
I said the same thing, because the stuff they were saying in that video was stuff like, man, that's good. I need to have that stuff wrote down and memorized, because that's beautiful, saying, well, I think we just started off and, we need to go, let's go to the middle and start working there, because we went right to the corners. Every one of those things was cool. I need to get that whole thing and get all that stuff like memorized, because it's like the perfect stuff to say, to try to keep a friendly, and just learn. Because I love people. I think I like to be like Larry King. I sit there and interview people all day long. If they let me do that, pay me for it, man, that'd be fun. Just to hear what people got to say and where they come from and everything. Man, I like that. But those things they said in that video towards kindness, man, I need to have that stuff memorized, because it's all just so beautiful.
I'll make sure you get a copy of that.
It helps everybody.
Okay, so what suggestions do you have? Just one from each of you, and if you have one, please offer it. What suggestions do you have? How can we improve this in the future, make it more relevant, bring more people in? Anybody got a suggestion for us?
I always try to treat people the way I want to be treated. They don't like that, so I'm just gonna keep smiling in their face.
Keep smiling.
Keep encouraging
There
them,
you
no matter what.
Okay.
That's the toughest question, because it's so
All right.
good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to schmooze or nothing, but I mean, when you got something that's good, it's hard to think of something to improve when it's so good already. You know what I'm saying?
So that means that you thought this was a good discussion today?
Oh, absolutely. I'm having a hard time thinking how we could have made it better, because it was so good. It's just, my mind ain't working right or something.
Well, we have
But
Raphael
you know what I'm saying?
to thank for that. Arnold?
If I understood the question right, how we can bring more into this kind of discussion and everything, well, let me put it like this. When Jesus came to speak, he always fed. You keep feeding, guess what? You have some people coming. Not too many people heard about the breakfast. Keep it coming. It's just like when we had the Thanksgiving, the first year, but that second year, they came.
Well, with that, I will say a hearty amen, and thank you once again for taking time to show up today. And we're gonna do it again in August. We're gonna tell you everything you ever wanted to know or did not about Project 2025, and figure out how we can stop that in its tracks, my God.
Gotta vote.
All right, thank you, Raphael. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, we'll have you back.
You said you was a father?
Yes.
Oh, man. Completely random.
I will be. Yeah, please. Yeah, and if you all, you got a church home?
You know what?
Okay. Thank you.
Well,
you get a chance some Sundays, 10:30, come on down and visit
one
with us.
thing to tell you, one person had a-
All right, thank you. Take care of that boy.
I got Keith Smitherman. Talked to him. He said, let me tell you a story. He said,
Brother Keith,
where you go to church? He saw the family.
Oh, you're from St. Louis?
He saw all the.
Yeah, from St. Louis.
St. Louis, you?
St. Louis.
They said, well, Lord, what church that they said?
Oh, it's St. Luke's Church.
St. Luke's.
Oh, St. Luke's Church, okay.
Yeah. I said St. Louis United.
Oh, okay.
Gotta realize your mission.
You
figure it out.
Yeah, I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah, Lady Hamilton, tell her. Thank you so much. It's great. Thank you for coming.
Keith Smitherman. That's my Keith.
That was a sacrifice right there.
Did you give Percy that
Uh-huh.
change?
I did.
You wait for me.
He gave you $70?
For her. He gave it to her lady.
Receive it in the name of Jesus. All right. now.
That was great. Thank you, ladies and gents, for having us.
This TV.
Really good. I'm looking forward to the next one.
No, I got another meeting.
I was just gonna say,
You're gonna need it here? Okay.
when you get the dates,
No.
we can,
We're taking it back.
Meeting over
to
there.
some other.
Yeah, we'll just have the
As
meeting.
many people as we can. Because I think people,
It's about summer camp.
would come and hear
What
that.
term
So-
is it served for you?
But we're supposed to do the
2025
work.
is crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, since you're here,
All right, well, I will see you later. Have a
Linda, thank you so much.
You're welcome, my pleasure.
I appreciate it.
Great, so now when he do these, Linda, that's your job. So.
I got a job.
He got a job.
What is your name?
I'm Lynn Hamilton.
Lynn Hamilton,
Hi,
Chuck
nice to-
Miller.
I'm a hugger. How are you?
Oh, okay, Lynn.
You
God
know,
bless you.
you know Attorney Hamilton. David?
I think I heard of David Hamilton.
Yeah.
That's his wife.
That's mine.
Linda, you said?
I'm Linda.
Linda.
They call me Lynn, so you'll hear about
All right, so the better half is David.
The better half is
Okay.
David. You already. He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
All right, everybody have a good day. Stay
Likewise.
cool.
Yes.
Oh, it's gonna be hot again. So.
Huh? Oh, Pastor.
Yeah, he's taking this stuff over to the other side.
How to? Pastor.
Oh, I remember, I know exactly who she's talking about, because I seen him come into church here. Yeah, I remember.